Yeah, I want to go over something about charging up non-rechargeable AA and AAA batteries. Non-rechargeable. You could do it, but well, let me just say exercise caution because there's a reason they say not to do it. It's because they could blow up, right? But I'm going to say this. If you're cautious in how you do it, especially in an emergency, but I usually recharge them once or twice, but I'm careful how I do it. What I will do is I will use a timer like this. Set it on usually I set it for like an hour at a time. And you can set the timer up so it's only on for an hour. You can see the green light is on this little Energizer battery charger. And I'm using non-rechargeable batteries. Now you can't recharge non-rechargeable batteries a bunch of times, but you could probably refresh them a couple times when they're getting weak. Now the way I check them though is I'll use a multimeter. Now, I've had several of these multimeters. I even had multimeters that were like, I don't know, they're like $100-something, just for testing voltage and ohms and stuff. I always wind up getting these $10 ones. But the reason I'm saying this, because many times you wind up throwing away batteries and you think they're good and you're bad. You should test them. You should test them. Now, what you do is you put, the meter on each side of the battery, and well, you can see on this newer battery, it's 1.56, 1.57 volts. And checking it with this. Got my hand over it like that. So basically, that's what it should be. It's usually about 1.6 volts on a brand new battery. It's supposed to be 1.5 volts. Now, on these rechargeable batteries, you're going to get on this meter 1.2 volts even when they're up to snuff. But the thing is, if you checked it now, these are probably down. You can see they're low. Okay, so that's 0.88 volts. So basically that's, I'm checking it right that way, right there. It's between these two contacts. So, but like what I have to say about this, the rechargeable batteries, they're not, even if you get this type where they got a lot of reserve power, they only put out 1.2 volts. They don't put out 1.5. That's just how they are. They're all like that. That's just how it is. That's the specification, whether it's AAA or AA. So a lot of times, I have various like electronic devices and stuff like that. What I'll do is I'll take the regular batteries. You're not supposed to do this actually, but the way I do it is, and I've never had a problem, is that I will continually check the voltage as I'm charging them up, like every hour. And I have this on a timer. So if you set this like on a 1 hour timer, that should suffice. You're not going to overheat them. You might want to do that. You'll probably put it on an hour like several times. And once it gets over 1.5 volts, you're done. Now you can probably recharge. They don't want you actually, the reason they don't want you doing this, first off, if you left this in the charger without a timer on it and you just left it in there, you could possibly blow up the battery. Possibly. More than likely, you're just going to damage it and it's going to get real hot. Because I've done that before. But if you set it on a 1 hour timer, 1 hour at a time, it does. And like a good charger like this is from Energizer. Now, actually, this is not how they recommend to do it, but I've been doing it this way. And I've been using non-rechargeable batteries. And the reason I said I use non-rechargeable is because these are specified for 1.5 volts. And all rechargeable batteries are 1.2. That's why when you put these in your like stronger electronic devices, they don't seem to last longer. And I remember I used to have cameras that used to have these AA batteries, and I still use the camera once in a while because if I want to go someplace, I'm afraid I don't want to use my better cameras and destroy it. I'll use the older one. It uses these. But it goes through batteries like crazy. And these stupid things, just don't work right in here because they're 1.2 volts. So what I wind up doing is I charge them in a regular battery charger that's designed for rechargeables, but I'm charging non-rechargeables. The point I'm saying is I use a timer 1 hour at a time, and then I check the voltage. And then once this gets a little bit above 1.5 volts, actually when they're brand spanking new, you'll see they're like 1.6 or maybe 1.63 volts, 1.6. So if I get them a little bit above 1.5 volts, they're okay. And I've always found that this works. It's like, it's penny pinching, but I wind up throwing away so much crap. I find it's wasteful. I just find it's wasteful because, some of these devices just go through batteries like crazy. And the rechargeables, like I said, they don't do the job because they're 1.2 volts. And that is just how they are. It's, even something like this that has like a huge reserve capacity, the voltage, that's the milliamps, 2700 milliamps. The voltage is 1.2. So the stuff, they don't last that long no matter what you do. So I found this is a good method. And it saves a couple bucks here and there. So, and in an emergency, say for instance, we go to like crisis situation, batteries are, what happens like when there's a hurricane? What's the first thing that runs out? Usually it's water containers, fuel containers, and batteries, right? So you go to the store, there's no batteries, and you got these dead batteries. Well, this is another emergency measure you can do. But just make sure you put it on a timer. So this is this timer, like if you're looking at this timer, wonder what it is. You could set it for like, it goes off at a specific time, and it goes on at a specific time. This is probably like a $4 timer. It's very cheap. I got a bunch of these, actually more expensive ones, but I like this cheap one. But you could set it so it goes off like on and off like an hour. So now it's off, and then so you could set it where you just turn it on and you hear it click, and you see, excuse me, it just clicks on, and in other words, once it clicks off, you could set this so it only goes on for an hour, spin it around, and do it for another hour. But you let the battery cool down a little bit in between each time. But normally it's simple because you basically, if you set this an hour, you walk away from it. It's not going to overheat the battery. You check the voltage, and it brings it back up. So in an emergency, that's something you could do for like if you don't have rechargeable batteries. But I wind up doing this, anyway, because these rechargeable batteries just don't cut it, man. They're 1.2 volts, and the regular ones are 1.5 volts. So I wind up doing this all the time. You're not really supposed to do this, but I've never had a problem as long as you're using a timer. Like I said, I don't set it for more than an hour at a time, and I keep checking the voltage. And you wind up being able to use these a couple times. So it's from my experience, so it works anyway. Figure to pass it on. It's a money-saving tip, but it could be a good tip to know in an emergency, because in emergencies, batteries seem to run out of the store like crazy, and you can't find any, and then you're stuck, right?